Hello, I'm Ed Better Baby. Welcome to my Leadership Behavior Podcast. In today's episode, I will be sharing my perspectives, or if you like, my assumptions, how I view leadership. A critical phase of my leadership journey began in 2012. I began to appreciate the concept of leadership in a different light, and I've had the unique opportunity to develop leadership skills in theory and also in practice. In my desire to learn leadership, I've had the privilege to be involved in several leadership programs that have been extremely insightful. I went in search of developing leadership skills, and these programs include the Art and Practice of Leadership Development at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Creating Change through Large-Scale Civic Leadership Development, Lead for Change program, Equip to Lead, leadership coaching courses, teaching leadership courses, all at the Kansas Leadership Center. Right? Exercise and leadership program at the Harvard University. Also, I got involved in the transformational leadership program at the Regent University. I became a certified trainer, coach, and speaker of the John Maxwell leadership team, the biggest leadership organization in the world. But more importantly, I have had the handsome privilege of learning leadership through the successes and failures of being an authority figure as a father, and also as a husband, and also managing individuals and teams in the workplace for over 2 decades. So on this first episode of my Leadership Behavior Podcast, permit me to suggest to you my perspectives on leadership, how I see leadership. They are by no means exhaustive, and you are free to disagree with any thought shared. Some of the ideas shared here might be completely against what you've heard and learned about leadership, and for some it might sound outright provocative. But I will urge you not to toss the thought immediately. Like we say in our leadership parlance, rent it for a while, rent the thought, and if it still does not make sense, you have my permission, feel free to toss it. This podcast is intended to be an educative and learning platform. More so, I view leadership as a practice. We keep learning daily, and I am not scared to be wrong. Leadership involves making progress on complex challenges, and in this dynamic and fast-changing world of ours, we must keep learning and adapting in order to make progress on the various challenges we face as individuals, families, the society, and also as nations. So the first perspective I want to suggest to you is that leadership is not a person. There is no individual or group of individuals called leadership. Our manner of speaking adds to the confusion, so you hear the statement, leadership of the organization has decided to scrap the program. It gives the impression that an individual or group of individuals are called leadership. Reference in this case is being made to top management of the organization who are authorized to make such decisions. I prefer to refer to them as authority figures. The notion of leadership as individuals has helped to promote the concept for decades that leadership is for a select few, that some are born to lead. I see it differently. How do I see leadership? Leadership for me is an activity. It's a behavior. It's what you do, not who you are. It's a verb and not a noun. Now, this is played out severally in my training sessions. Whenever the word leadership is mentioned, what comes to the mind of most people is the individual sitting behind the big decks or the political figure in the country who they see on their TV screens most of the time. Many people wrongly equate leadership with the person in charge, but the reality is that leadership is about the actions and reactions of the individuals in charge and not the individuals. Being in charge does not confer leadership, but we can deduce leadership by looking at the actions and activities carried out by the individuals in charge or by those we call authority figures in authority positions. Perspective 2 that I would like to suggest to you is that leadership and authority are 2 different things. You heard me right. Leadership and authority are often confused together, but we must distinguish between them. Authority is a position, people hold it. Leadership is an activity, people do it. A simple way of looking at authority is that A, or defining authority is that A grants B power in exchange for service. This definition holds true whether you are looking at formal or informal authority. Formal authority being the role or position of a manager in the office or a political figure appointed or voted into office. Informal authority being your caregiver, your gym instructor, or even your hairdresser, or for the guys, a barber who has been authorized informally in exchange for a service you desire. But the grant or possession of authority does not equate with leadership. Authority is a tool, and how it is used determines whether leadership has taken place. Most people will agree that the late Nelson Mandela, the first post-apartheid president of South Africa, exercised great leadership to move his nation forward. But the reason he is still celebrated today, even in dirt, is not because he occupied the position of the president of the Republic of South Africa. Others also occupied the same position, but we are not celebrating some of them. It is what he did with the authority as president, and also how well he managed the informal authority gained while in prison for about 27 years. I took some teens to the National Assembly of Nigeria some years ago. We were hosted by a good friend of mine. It was great to hear him say that being a member of the House of Representatives or a senator in the upper chamber is not leadership. Rather, it is what you do with the authority given to you. I had this conversation with my son some years ago while he was still a teen. He's an adult now. He's the first of 3 children, and older by the second by almost 3 years. Being the first and oldest, he had gained some level of informal authority, having been exposed the most to the norms and values of the family. However, it was important for him to understand that his leadership will be measured by his use of authority and not just by having one. I said to him, "What are your actions and reactions in relation to your 2 younger siblings? Do you set the right examples? Do you communicate properly? Are you willing to sacrifice when the occasion demands? Or do you think as the guy with the informal authority, it gives you the right to be above the rules or to treat others without respect?" Thankfully, he got the message. Perspective 3 that I would like to suggest to you is that leadership is not limited to a few. I think everyone can lead. One of the downsides of seeing leadership as a person is that we perpetuate the notion still dominant in some quarters that leadership is not for everyone, that some people are born to lead or with special leadership traits. Do I doubt that some people are born with traits that can help boost leadership or provide them with some level of authority? No. But the important thing is that the trait or the authority is used to make leadership happen. For example, charisma. Having charisma means people want to hear you. They are keen to grant you the gift of their presence or attention. But charisma is not leadership. Leadership will be defined by how the tool of charisma is used to get work done, and not just to sway people. Hitler was charismatic, but did he exercise leadership? These are important questions to ask. Some people think being born into a royal family confers on you leadership. Does it really? I don't think so. It only provides authority. When we learn to distinguish authority from leadership, we can appreciate that not everyone will occupy positions of authority. But leadership can be exercised by all, anytime, anywhere. Anyone can and should exercise leadership, in my view. Leadership is an activity that doesn't rely on position or authority, but rather on recognizing opportunities to make a difference, whether it's within families, teams, or organizations. Leadership is a shared responsibility that must be cultivated across all levels. The more people who engage in leadership behaviors, the more resilient and adaptive and healthy a community will be. We have too many problems in our world, so can't afford to leave the practice of leadership to a select few. My good friends at the Kansas Leadership Center, Ed O'Malley and Julia Fabrice McBride, released a book last year. When everyone leads, the toughest challenges get seen and solved. You may want to check it out. My 4th perspective or assumption of leadership is that you don't require authority to exercise leadership. You don't need formal authority to lead. Leadership can come from those with power and those without power. Leadership from below or leadership without authority can sometimes be more effective than leadership from positions of power because it comes without the baggage or constraints of multiple expectations. Haven't you noticed that sometimes the bigger the authority an individual possesses, the less leadership they practice? Because authority comes with a set of constraints. The authorizers have multiple expectations and their own set of criteria to define success or if service is being rendered. What authority did Malala Yousafzai possessed when she started advocating for girls' rights to education as a teen in the Swat Valley in a village in Pakistan? What authority did she have? Leadership comes from seeing an opportunity to make a difference and having the courage to act regardless of one's official role or title. And the fifth perspective 5 that I'd like to suggest to you is that the opportunity to exercise leadership comes to us daily. When we see leadership as a practice, something we do, not who we are, then we can appreciate that the opportunities to exercise it show up regularly in our daily lives. Whether it's responding to an issue within the family, influencing a work project, or responding to a community issue, these moments challenge us to step up. Recently, my wife was discussing with our older daughter who was agitated about an activity that hadn't gone well in school. During the conversation, our daughter raised the heat, but it was beautiful to see how my wife managed self and seized the opportunity to communicate truth to her. Leadership is about recognizing these opportunities and taking deliberate actions that drive progress, no matter the scale of the problem. It's the cumulative effect of these actions that creates lasting change. And my 6th perspective of how I see leadership is that leadership can be taught and learned, and I'm quite passionate about this. I mean, it's a passion for me, and I just love to teach leadership. Leadership is not about possessing certain inborn characteristics such as charisma or dominance or whatever you call it. Instead, it's a set of skills and behaviors that anyone can develop with time and intentional practice. In my opinion, the act and practice of leadership development should begin with our kids from the primary level. It's a mistake to think that leadership should begin when individuals get older. Learning the art early ensures a culture of leadership can be developed. Leadership involves the ability to diagnose situations, adapt to complex challenges, and mobilize others towards shared goals. Framing leadership as a skill emphasizes that it is something you can learn through experience, just like any other profession or discipline. Perspective 7. Leadership begins with you, but must involve others. Leadership is personal, but not solitary. It begins with an individual recognizing the need for change and acting on it. But for leadership to be effective, it has to involve others. Leadership is about mobilizing people towards shared goals, making it a collective effort. The challenges we face, whether organizational or societal, are too complex for one person to solve alone. Therefore, the goal will be to inspire and engage others in the process, facilitating collaboration and shared ownership of the solutions. And perspective 8 that I'd like to talk to you about is leadership must be connected to problem solving. The measure of authentic leadership should not be based on the possession of the tools of power, authority, or personal characteristics. Having the tools is not enough, but it has to be whether progress is being made on an organization or community's most critical challenges. If there is no progress, then leadership isn't really happening. We live in a world where change is constant, so we must keep defining the work of leadership to make progress on the challenges and the tools we need, the tools of leadership to make progress on these challenges. Leadership requires focusing on the toughest, most contentious challenges we face. One of my mentors wrote a book years ago titled Leadership Without Easy Answers. Because we face tough problems in our world and we need to think about what kind of leadership, what tools of leadership we need to make progress on these challenges. To make progress on some of the challenges we face today will require a stomach for learning and experimentation. And my 9th perspective of leadership is that leadership produces leadership, not followers. Yeah, this may sound controversial, but think about it. Effective leadership creates more leadership, not followers. The goal of leadership should be to build capacity, not dependency. Authentic leadership ensures individuals build capacity to take initiative and lead in their own ways. Successful societies have been built not by aggregating followers, by ensuring more individuals, but rather by ensuring more individuals take ownership of what they must do. And through that, they inspire and mobilize others to act as well. This is different from saying I have 10,000, 20,000 followers, and these are people who don't understand what you're doing. By cultivating leadership across an organization or community, we can foster resilience and adaptability. This shared leadership model creates a multiplying effect where leadership capacity grows, enabling the group to tackle more significant challenges over time. And my 10th and final perspective, and I note these are not exhaustive, is that there are no defining characteristics of leadership. It's not a one-size-fits-all. That's right. Leadership is not a one-size-fits-all. There is no one-size-fits-all definition. Leadership isn't tied to specific traits like charisma, boldness, courage, assertiveness. Instead, it's about behavior and action in the face of adaptive challenges. So you see that the concept of 18, 20, 25 qualities or traits of a good leader is archaic and I dare say bankrupt. Leadership is dynamic and must be seen and measured in relation to the relevant behaviors and skills needed to make progress on the challenges we face per time. Boldness, courage, and strength are irrelevant where what is needed to make progress is empathy and vulnerability. Some individuals are failing in their practice of leadership because they have confined themselves to certain traits which in their minds of thinking define leadership. The leader must be strong, must be bold. We need leadership to thrive in our world. The concept of thriving necessitates that we focus on three things. Number one, identify what is working, hence must be retained. 2, what is not working, so must be discarded. And 3, new skills or behaviors necessary to fill the gaps, and if not available, must be developed. It's the work that defines the craft. In carpentry, for example, you can't use the same set of tools for every furniture to be built. The tools are determined by the work to be done. Our measurement of leadership has to be based on progress, on the work to be done. I hope this has made sense to you. 10 perspectives, my assumptions, how I see leadership, and we're going to be building on some of these, but I thought it was important to suggest and to communicate these thoughts to you on this first episode of my Leadership Behavior podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to engaging with you in the next episode. Thank you very much.